Hello everyone, it's Lennon, and today I want to talk about beginning witchcraft, specifically after religious conversion. Now, there are lots of people in the witchy community that have either been witches all their lives or pagan all their lives, or they didn't really have a religious upbringing, so they were, kind of agnostic throughout their childhood. There was never any like severe religious stipulations put upon them as children, and all of those are all well and good. But I've gotten asked several times since I've made my testimony video and my healing from religion video about like how you know you're a witch when you are seated in these sort of religious communities and neighborhoods and families, and you've been doing it your whole life. You get overcome with feelings of wanting to be in the witchcraft community. And I know what that feels like, to feel like the outcast. And I want to start this video by saying that you are not alone if you have these feelings. If you grew up in a religious family and, there was never any, you never really got called to that, or whatever religion you were in specifically, and you found yourself growing up and then moving away from that religion, whatever it may have been. And I want to start out by saying that for me, the severance, there was a lot of guilt and shame and self-doubting myself. When I started feeling, now I've said this in a previous video, I felt witchy my whole life. Literally I've been doing witchy shit all my life. And I felt witchy, but I didn't know what the hell that meant. And so when I started researching and reading books and that they had witches in them, I kept thinking, I just kept going back to the thought, can I be this? Can I do this? This is me. With that came lots of sadness, because, and not in a sadness like I'm, crying for who I would never be. It was more of a sadness that now I'm the outcast. Now I don't think like these people that I grew up with. That's sad. And it can be sad in here. I started noticing things about the craft. Like I would read something, or I would want to do something, like want to practice something, like a ritual or do a spell. And then right after I would do those things, I would feel guilty. I felt this need to pray and ask for forgiveness. And this need to get the devil off my back. That was the big thing when I was growing up. Oh, it's just the devil on your back. And there was just so much weighting down in the sludge that I kept having to pull myself back up, and then it got exhausting. I just kept thinking to myself, what is this Lord of Hell going to do to me when I fully convert to the dark side? I want to ask some questions to the ones that are coming from a religious background, a religious childhood, and they really feel witchy, and they think that they're a witch, and they, whatever the case is. I have some base questions that I had to ask myself. When I first started this journey with the craft, I had to ask myself these questions to eradicate some of the shame and the guilt and the regret. All those emotions over there. I had to find ways that I could get rid of them so that my practice was serving me, would start serving me. Because at the beginning, I didn't feel like it was. None of my spells were working. I couldn't get on a schedule. Not that I needed one, but I was reading so much, I kept thinking I needed to do this. I can't really have this because, my mom would kill me. I can't have these certain tools, or I can't just be burning candles in my room all day. There were just things that I couldn't do living in the broom closet. And so I started to really self-reflect and ask myself these questions. First question. And these questions are in terms of your conversion and your craft and what that looks like. So, first question, what is your calling? What is the calling? What is standing out to you in terms of witchcraft? What is standing out to you in terms of this esoterica? Think about what's calling you to the craft, just in general. Did you read something? Did you see something on Pinterest, right? Did you see something on Instagram? Is it like the aesthetic? What about those photographs did you like? What about those texts did you like? What about those books? Did you read Scott Cunningham? And, something jumped out at you and you're like, oh yeah, this is me, right? There was something in those texts or in those pictures that drew you. What is it? I have to ask myself that all the time, because I have to stop myself from just liking the aesthetic, because then I get wrapped into a rabbit hole of wanting things, when that's not what my practice is. It's not about accumulating all these tools and ephemera. It's about how my practice is benefiting me. So I have to stop myself and then just keep going back to, okay, what in this picture do I like the most? Or what looks like me the most? What are my visuals? What's calling me to have this picture really fill me with a good reaction, a good feeling? What is it about those things? The next question is, are you or would you be in the broom closet? This is something you got to know. And not only for you, but in order to interpret your relationships better. How would your parents react? How would your siblings react? How would your partner react? How would your friends? And I, as someone who's been in the broom closet for years now, there are only a couple of people in my life that even know. My partner knows. I think two out of the 5, I'm one of 5, and I think 2 of them know. So that's kind of, and they don't really know. They don't ask any questions. They know that I am on YouTube and they've seen a couple of my videos. I don't know which ones. And so they kind of have an inkling, I'll say. So it's not like we've had the dialogue. I think they're afraid to have the dialogue with me, and vice versa. I'm afraid to have it with them. My parents, if you've watched any of my other videos, you know that my parents are really devout, so they have no clue. My life partner knows. My children know a little bit. But I'm very organic with my children. I don't lie to them. If I'm doing a spell or doing a ritual, I tell them. They're at that age where they aren't curious, like this isn't like oh, well, why? Well, why? Well, why? That was like age 3 for them. So they're way past that age. And when they are curious, they'll ask me and I'll tell them and I won't lie. So I'm very organic with them, but they still, it's like more of an inkling than a no. And so I very much feel like I'm in the broom closet with all of my extended family. And so I have to hold on to the embarrassment and the shame and the guilt within those relationships. When my mom talks to me about Jesus, or, oh, I was watching a sermon the other day and, they said this, and this. What do you think? She really wants to have dialogues like this. But because that's not where my belief lies, it's really hard not to have those emotions in your body. So you have to know that up front. And it's okay just to have it right here, not doing anything with it, but just have it in your brain. Mine was like, my emotions lie with not the embarrassment per se, but the fear of the lecture. My family is one of those that when you get on the phone with them, it starts out okay for like half hour, and then it starts going into everything that you've done wrong in your life, and it turns into a 2-hour conversation, more than half, 80% of which has turned into a lecture. I was on the phone just 2 days ago with an aunt, and as lovely as she is, and as great as our relationship has been over the years, the conversation quickly turned into, I still don't understand why you don't have those kids in church, Lennon. Talking about my kids. My kids. You know, what are they going to do when they don't have you anymore? What is their spirit? They need a relationship with God so that when you're not there, they have someone to pray to. They have someone to look to for guidance. All valid points. So there's those emotions too. You get stuck in that. You get stuck in that. Instead of like me, over the years, I've kind of learned to, and not in a disrespectful way, in more of a, I'm processing what you say. I love you. I know why you're saying these things, because you feel for me. You feel for my damned soul. You feel for my children's soul, and you want us to go to heaven because that's what you believe. And so it was more about getting to a place where I can accept why these people have these high views on life, and why they have these needs to minister to me. And it took years for me to get to that place of accepting that they had to do that for their own soul, in terms of their own religion. Next question is, are you learning? I read so many books when I was starting the craft. Mostly it was like kitschy spell books and like a Scott Cunningham book or something. And what I had to do with learning and reading and picking up those new books, all great. All of them had really good nuggets of information, okay? Everything that I would read. But within learning, you need to be okay with scratching out what you don't like. And it's okay, especially if you're a solitary practitioner like I am. There were things in those books and in those texts and in those articles that I would read starting out that I would have to scratch something out. Like, okay, I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to buy that. Stuff like that. I had to be open. It took me a while, folks, for me to figure out that I could do that. That I could scratch things out. I could take things away from these other people's practice, because this was going to be my practice. And it took lots of YouTube videos, and it took lots of magazine articles and articles online from different accounts of for beginner witchcraft, beginner witches, that I finally, got okay with not having, first of all, not having a big structure like what I had in Christianity. And then being okay being a solitary practitioner, cutting things out that weren't going to serve me. And then once I learned, and I'm still learning, okay, it's an ongoing journey for me, I built a practice that fits and benefits me by eradicating the things that weren't going to serve me that I found in a Buckland book, Buckland's Encyclopedia, whatever the hell that's called. But back to number one, what was the calling? In terms of research, what are you learning? When you know about those callings or those pictures and you're like, oh, that, I think it's this that really resonates, right? Like a crystal, let's just say. Well, then that's where you can learn. You don't have to go out and buy crystal books. You don't have to go out and buy all the crystals. You don't even really have to purchase the Crystal Bible. It's a great resource, but you could get online and look up witchy properties of citrine, It's real easy nowadays to research things. Where your calling is, look those things up. Google is your friend. If you want to buy books, that's great. But also know that the last thing I said was scratch out what's not serving you. So it's a process, right? For me, that's what it was for me. Learning. What are you learning? That's the question that we're on right now. Research. My craft is very solitary. It's just me doing my craft, doing my thing. But what if that's not you? What if you would like a coven? What if you want the structure of Wicca? Right? What does NeoPaganism as an umbrella term look like to you? right? Were there different, like I know lots of people have videos on like types of witches, like kitchen witch, divination witch, green witch, hedge witch, whatever. It's like, okay, all of them are great. All of them. Maybe you want a specific type. Maybe you need a specific type. Maybe you need, like, say, you want to start as a kitchen witch because that's where you're, that's where you love to be. You love to be in the kitchen, so you want to be a kitchen witch, and then you're going to start your journey there, right? It's just like I said. This is a churn. We're churning the butter here with all this. What's the calling? What's calling you to the craft? Especially if you're coming from religion. Any religion. Like for me, mine was Christianity. When I came from there, I had to like learn shed what wasn't serving me from Christianity over here, and then build. And I'm still churning the butter, right? Still not done. So what's the calling? Are you or will you be in the broom closet? Think about your relationships. And neither one, being in the broom closet or not, or just shouting it to the rooftops, it has to be yours. This has to be you. This has to benefit you. Okay, no one else. Are you learning? What are you learning? You need to be learning constantly. I do want to stress that what's calling you may be and seem to be specific. You can go as specific as you want with all those last 3 questions. I wouldn't recommend overwhelming yourself because it can feel overwhelming. It can feel like there's just too many books and not enough time, especially if you're in the broom closet. You know, can't get my hands on all these library books at once. There's so many books with different accounts. You know, it's like, why can't somebody just plop a book in my hand? This is step 1 through step 5 of how to become a witch. It doesn't work like that. You have to be open to that. And it's okay. It's okay. You're a witch when you say you're a witch. Whether you're in the theory stage or the practice stage, I don't care. If you are holding your own power and standing in your own power and you want to call yourself a witch, by all means. So just know that. Okay, so those are the questions. I want to talk about things that I've learned from like beginning till now. Most of my craft is intention work. That's where my magic is. That's where my power is. What does that look like? It looks different for everybody. But for me, my intention work and manifestation work is all on this. Okay? This is my brain. I'm focused in on something. I'm focused in on what I want to shed, banish, manifest. I'm focused in on those things. I'm pinpointing them in my brain. I don't have to have any tools for that. I don't have to have any fancy parchment. I've said this before that my practice often looks like I'm sitting around with my eyes closed a lot. You know, I'm thinking about the things that I need to change or I want to keep in my life. It's coming into my power as an individual. And then when I fix this, my home life and my mom life and, you know, the kids' lives and my partner's lives, we're evolving and changing through the times, through the tears, together. But I have to start with me. Because if I don't, it all gets wonky. I've mentioned this before in lots and lots of videos, but I want to talk about like the tools I use. The tool I use is my body. Your body is the temple. Your body is a vessel. Your body is everything, okay? Your physical body, your mind, your body, and your spirit all lives in here, okay? Maybe you're radiating out here, but I use my body. I use my 5 senses. I've like I said, I keep saying this in all my videos, is in terms of magic. Like my house, I'm pretty maximalist. That I like my house to look cozy and lived in. I like there to be like all kinds of pillows, and I want the furniture to look frumpy. Like you can lay down on my couch if you want to. I don't care if that what makes you comfortable. Do it. There's books stacked up in the bookcase and on the floor and on the coffee table, all at your disposal. If you come over here and you sit on my couch, pick up a book, thumb through it. I'm very maximalist. It doesn't look inherently witchy when you walk into my house, but there are little things that I have set out that I may use in my craft. But I want to go back to, I don't have to have those things. I don't. Bird is so loud, isn't it? I could get rid of all the things that I do use for my practice and just use my body. And I'm going to tell you a few things that I do with my five senses. Sight, right? My house looks cozy to me. I like how it looks. I've put things with intentions in specific places. I'll put something north facing, or I'll put something south facing, or I'll put a candle, in front of a mirror. So when I use it, it turned into a scrying mirror. Nobody's in the wiser, Or I have candles placed strategically, places that benefit me, that when I'm making my rounds to light all my incense and candles, they're in the proper spots for me, right? So that's sight. And then smell. I have some essential oils, but I've found that they're really potent for my small space. And so I usually just use incense, and I'll have one incense in the front of the house and one incense going in the back of the house. Usually it's two different scents, and I'll mirror the scents. And I need rose and I need frankincense. So I'll have both of them going. So I have smell, right? Not even mentioning the baked goods. I bake all the time, right? But that goes into taste. But that can go into smell, right? Because everyone loves coming to Lennon's house and smelling fresh baked cookies. But taste, I bake all the time. I use intention work in my baking, whether it be my sigil cookies, whether it be brownies that I'll cut with cookie cutters for a specific intention, like love work. There's something for me and my partner to be binging while we watch TV, right? In the evening. Or it's my herb bread, and that's like for prosperity and abundance work. Whatever it is, I've got it sitting out on the counter, right? For taste and for smell. Touch. I usually make my own altar tools, and I've showed them in a previous video, but they're made out of clay. I work with clay all the time. So I do that, and those are things that I can touch, physically touch when I go to sacred space or the altar. Or maybe these figurines didn't quite make it to my altar, but they're just kind of sitting on my mantle or something. I can pull them down and hold them in my hand as part of touch. Maybe it's a soft pillow, or a shag carpet for my feet by my bed, which I do have that I love. Or maybe it's like that blanket that my grandmother sewed that I really, really like. And I pull that out with a specific intention. That's actually coming into my power and using ancestor veneration. And then here, I often am by myself for hours and hours and hours with nothing going on. No TV, no music. And I'm like doing housework or something. Usually people have music going, or they have TV going or something while they do their chores. I don't. I like to piddle around sometimes for hours at a time with nothing. And I want to stress that, in my opinion, silence is a sound. What are you hearing in the silence? Don't be afraid of it. Don't be afraid to let your mind wander, right? Don't be afraid to let them thoughts go way, way out. It's good. I think it's good for your brain to just kind of, while you're doing mundane things, your brain's churning, right? I think it's good for it to do that. Now, I'm not saying that sound is my sound is silence, okay? The sound of silence. But I'll often, sometimes I'll play instrumental music. I love cellos. I love cello music. I love violin. I love string music, okay? And vibrational music, maybe. Or I'll have a water fountain going. You know, I have like one of those little tabletop fountains. Maybe I'll plug that in. So those can be sounds too. I'm just saying. So that's how I use my five senses, all of which I can put an intention to. The best tool that I have is my notebook. It's like a different color. Every time I make a video and show one of these, it's like a different color. That's because I use them so much. I use these so much. You don't have to have a fancy book of shadows or a fancy book of mirrors or what grimoire or whatever the hell they're called. I mostly use this. I do have those very pretty notebooks that I've been kind of severe with, but on a day-to-day basis, writing down your life is going to help. It will. And it has for me. It has for me. The craft for me is about self-exploration. It's about you. How was your conversion journey? Are you still, what are you learning today? What are you wanting to research today? When you were reading something or when you saw something on Pinterest, how are you going to remember that, I pinned this and that means I want to go read that article? Write it down, right? Keep writing the things that you want to explore. You want to do this. Maybe I want to check this book out, see what it's all about. Maybe I want to check this crystal out. Write it down. And then the great thing is that once you've wrote down what you want to research, then you research it. You already have your notebook. You already have a notebook to write it down. Keeping a notebook, for me, is a vital part of my practice. That's the best tool I have. The best part about having a journal is that a lot of people that come to your house or come to your room or whatever, they're not going to flip through your journal. Maybe if you have a nosy sibling or something. But if you have one of these laying around, it doesn't really look like a diary. Pretty sure a young brother is not going to be flipping through it. But your peeps better than me. And journaling for me has been more than just a part of like a learning tool, like a tool that I use in my learning. It can be just to get rid of the sludge, like a diary. This could be questions that you want to ask yourself, writing prompts that you've seen that you want to explore later. This could even be a dream journal. Ways in which to get to know yourself through your subconscious, right? It could be it all. I use these composition notebooks for all the above. Now, one thing that I didn't know I could do starting the craft was use a hobby. I could use one of my hobbies in my craft, in my practice. For me, that was all on the art, the creative side of it. I started drawing and painting and writing poetry. Those are the three main things that I do. And when I started out, I didn't want to, because my thoughts were kind of macabre at the beginning, right? That's nothing bad with that. But I started feeling like, I can't use my art, because if I start using my art for my craft or with my craft, then I'll start having all these paintings and drawings full of skulls and werewolves and snarling beasts and monsters and vampires and gore, and I would start having all this laying around my house, and then people are going to think I'm nuts, and I started having those weird thoughts, right? It doesn't work like that. Mostly it's this stuff, these nature-based paintings. I do draw those things. I do draw the dark witchy things, but mostly it's in a journal, like in one of those like sketch journals that look a lot like this. But I do have those macabre drawings or those macabre paintings, but mostly it's nature-based, which is where my paganism lies. My own branch of paganism is nature-based. And that is yet another thing that you can research. Research the moon phases, the wheel of the year. That's heavy for me, was learning all of those cycles. Learning how some of the cycles benefited me. Which wheel of the year, which Sabbats or Espats called to me. Those are just even more things you research. Find out. But the whole point of the craft, in my opinion, is self-exploration. And there's a big bold letters up here, know thyself. Know you. So that if you are being the best you, then everything else falls into place for you in your life. I'll leave you with this. Your practice is yours. Your magic is yours. Your power is yours. You are important. You are not alone. Your craft can't be yours if you're trying to be the witch from Pinterest. So be you. Be your witchy self. Whatever that looks like to you. So anyway, oh my God, I've been on for so long. I've been rambling. But anyway, I want to thank everyone who reached out. And I feel so blessed that you reached out and asked me these questions about beginning the craft and coming from, Christianity even. A lot of them have come from Christianity. And I feel so blessed that you thought about me and asked me these questions. So I just wanted to address this because I'm very passionate about healing from religion and RTS. And I will leave some resources and videos for you to look at below. And I hope to see everyone again on the channel. Much love.